The Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Mr Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to Clause 2 of this legislation. I'm particularly keen to speak to this because I have a supplementary order paper in my name on this clause. As my colleague has mentioned, this is a very narrow provision in the legislation. It deals solely with the commencement. Clause 2, as it stands, says this Act comes into force on the day after the date on which it receives the royal assent, and generally that would not be a problem. Generally, Parliament would agree to that. But generally, a bill of this nature, which does not require any urgency to be accorded to it, would have gone through a proper parliamentary process. It would have had the introduction from the Minister. It would have been referred to a select committee. The select committee would have called for submissions from members of the public. The members of the select committee, in this case it would have been chaired by Dr Paul Hutchison, would have been able to look at the legislation with fresh eyes, without the tainting of the Minister who has shepherded it through to this stage, and obviously has a close and vested interest in it passing. So the Select Committee could have looked at it with fresh eyes. Members of the public could have had their say about this legislation, but none of that has taken place. Instead, we are seeing, in an absolute breach of the protocol of budget urgency, we are seeing this bill being rammed through all stages, one after another, after another. So, midnight tonight or tomorrow morning, I don't know when, this bill will be passed without a single member of the public having had the opportunity to have their say. This is not a technical bill, Mr Chairman. This is not a bill that is irrelevant to people. This is a bill that cuts to the heart of families in New Zealand who have disabled members of their family. This bill is about whether or not those family members, when they provide home care for their members, are able to get paid or not. But because of the commencement and the process that it has been undertaken by this arrogant and out-of-touch minister, none of those family members will have a say. So my supplementary order on this clause reads as follows. After the current wording, which I just alluded to, insert the following words. This bill can only be submitted for royal assent if the bill has been submitted to the Health Select Committee for public consultation and comment prior to the third reading. Mr Chairman, with that amendment, we could have this debate. We could hear the Minister's justifications for this bill being so limited. We could hear the Minister's justification for extinguishing the rights of excluded family members, so the family members who are not covered, who will continue supporting their family members but won't get paid, why those people not only have had their payment denied by the Minister, but have also had their rights to the Human Rights Tribunal extinguished. They would be able to have a say at the Select Committee if my amendment was passed. Mr Chairman, I don't think that's a big ask, actually. There is no reason at all for this move to be hidden under the cloud of budget. It is not a budgetary matter. It's not a matter for urgency. It's actually, in my view, not a matter for confidence and supply. And I think that's the only reason it's being put through under budget urgency, so that the 3 votes of the Māori Party could be attached to it. If this bill was amended as per my SOP to Clause 2, we would be able to have that debate with the full scrutiny of members of the public and the 3,800 families who are not given financial support under this legislation, are being denied it, and also having their right to a Human Rights Tribunal denied. The way that the current commencement provision reads, no such scrutiny is allowed. The bill, having gone through all of its stages in one go, with hardly a pause for breath, let alone any fresh consideration, will come into force on the day after the date on which it receives the royal assent. I think that's a big mistake. It has been pointed out in many previous debates in this Parliament what happens when legislation is rushed. Almost without exception, the Minister has to come back, look embarrassed, even more embarrassed than currently, look embarrassed, and ask for more time of Parliament to correct the mistakes. We should support my amendment and not do that.
Grant Robertson.